Hi, I'm Russ Devan, and we're back with Wake Up America Media Network, and I'm here again with my friend Bill Federer. And Bill and I were talking if there's one of the dominant themes in the United States and in our culture today, it's conversations about Islam. And I often say that, you know, a lot of the things that I see happening in the world, they frighten me. Quite honestly, the level of barbarity and even the feeling of evil is really something. However, one of the things that I've found is that a great antidote to fear, because generally we fear what we don't know about, is knowledge and information. And if there's others out there that feel as I do, we have some fascinating history with Islam, don't we, Bill? And I've just been loving visiting on this subject. So would you say a little bit about our history
Sure.
and how it relates to Islam, and Islam's history and how it relates to the world?
Well, I put together a book called What Every American Needs to Know About the Koran, A History of Islam in the United States. And we have to ask, who was the perfect Muslim? Because if there are Muslims today and they want to be better, well, Muhammad is obviously the most perfect Muslim.
Held up.
And so if we understand his life, we can understand those who are trying to follow him. His life is called the Sunnah, the way, the example. So Muhammad's life went through 3 stages. The first stage is he was a religious leader in the pagan city of Mecca and only made 70 converts in 12 years. He gets a little confrontational and they chase him out of town. He flees north 210 miles to a Jewish city called Medina. They're nice enough to let him in, but they reject his faith, and so he goes into the minority neighborhoods in Medina and begins to get a following. And he gets a following, goes back to the Jewish leaders, they make a treaty with him, and now he becomes a political leader in addition to being a religious leader. Then a third thing happens. His followers in Mecca get a little confrontational, and they get chased out of town for disturbing the peace. They go to Medina, and Muhammad permits his followers to rob the caravans headed to Mecca in retaliation for the Meccans chasing them out of town. Wow. And so where Jesus said, if they take your coat, give them your shirt, Muhammad basically said, if they take your house, you can retaliate and take their caravan. And so Muhammad got a whole chapter of the Quran on how to distribute booty from robbing caravans. It's Surah 8, chapter 8. And so he got a fifth of the booty. And so in the year 624 AD, the Meccans have 1,000 soldiers protecting their caravan. Muhammad, with 300, defeats 1,000 at the Battle of Badra in 624 AD. This amazing victory, having been outnumbered 3-1, convinces Muhammad to be a military leader. And he fights in 66 battles in the next 8 years before he dies. He even used the catapult when he attacked the city of Al-Taif. And when he was told the catapult was killing women and children, Muhammad's response was, they are among them. So they got to be killed too. So suicide bombers today say it's okay to kill innocent women and children to advance Islam because Muhammad did. And since he is the perfect Muslim, Muslims today that want to be better Muslims, they want to be more fundamental, they want to follow his example religiously, politically, and militarily. And so we see there's a 1,400-year track record that we can observe this. So in the year 627 AD, the Meccans send 10,000 soldiers to Medina. And Muhammad's version of roadside bombs and IEDs was he dug potholes and trenches all around the city of Medina, which rendered the superior cavalry of the Meccans useless. And so you can't charge your horse and camel across a field full of potholes and trenches, they'll break their legs. Anyway, long story short, he captures Medina and chops off the head of 700 Jews, and finally the Jews were chased out. And so we see that within 5 years of Muhammad immigrating to the Jewish city of Medina, there is not a Jew left in the city of Medina. Within 5 years of Muhammad's death, every pre-existing culture in Arabia has been displaced. And then we see that under the rightly guided caliphs, the caliph is the supreme leader in Islam after Muhammad. You have the first is Abu Bakr, and then the second is Caliph Umar, and he conquers Jerusalem. Jerusalem had been a Byzantine Christian city for 3 centuries since Constantine. And Caliph Umar conquers Syria. Syria was the first country to completely be Christian, evangelized by the Apostle Paul. In Antioch, Syria is where the name Christian was first used.
Wow.
And then under Amir ibn al-As, the Muslims invade Egypt. Egypt had been Christian for 6 centuries, evangelized by Mark, that wrote the Gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then there used to be 250 Catholic dioceses along North Africa in the 7th century. So Morocco, Algiers, Tunisia, Libya, that was all Christian. St. Augustine of Hippo was from Carthage, which today is Tunisia, but the Muslims conquered it all. And then in the year 711, 80,000 Muslims invaded Spain. And they conquered Spain in 10 years because they fought on horseback with stirrups and scimitar swords. The Spaniards were still on foot with heavy metal swords. They crossed the Pyrenees Mountains. They conquered southern France. They're finally stopped outside of Paris at the Battle of Tours in 732 AD by Charles Martel, the grandfather of Charlemagne. So they went from Muhammad's death in 632 AD in Arabia to 732 AD. They're outside Paris. And then they come around. That was the first Arab Spring, from the Persian Gulf to the Atlantic Ocean.